Hey everybody, welcome back to Rusty Guns. So today is a Workday Wednesday and we're going to be doing how to remove and install a buffer tube and a sling mount. This sling mount that I already have on here is a single point sling mount. That's the kind we're going to be doing. You could also use it for another type of sling, but typically it's used for a single point sling. That particular piece sits right here next to the castle nut in your lower receiver. And on yours, if you don't have one already, it will look like this. But mine, since it is a ambidextrous sling mount, has a loop on this side and one on this side. I'll show you that when I take it off. Now typically reason people will change out their buffer tubes is because they're wanting a fancier one or something, or they're moving from a mil spec to a commercial one or a commercial to a mil spec. And this is a commercial buffer tube. That's what they're typically called, and you can see it has a slight angle to it. It's not perfectly perpendicular. And on a mil spec, it will be completely straight on the end. It won't be slightly at an angle. So what we're going to need to do this is going to be a handy dandy AR tool. And we're going to be using this end of the AR tool that has this one little nub right here on the end of it. So let's go ahead and get to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the buttstock. To take off a buttstock, this pin that is typically right below where the lever is, we pull that all the way down, as far down as we can go, and then you can just slide the buttstock straight off the gun. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so we have that done. Now we're going to take out the buffer and the buffer spring. To do that, this small little pin right here that holds the buffer in, we're going to push it down and it will release the buffer. And this can be a pain in the butt because that little bitty pin likes to grab every ring on the spring. We'll pull that right out. And now we're going to release the castle nut. It's castle nut because it looks like the top of a castle. And just remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. I already had this one loosened ahead of time, but just to show you that that's how you do it. Now when we do this, there is a spring, and I'm going to show you where it's located in a second. But there is a small spring behind here that you don't want to lose. So typically I loosen the castle nut all the way and I hold pressure onto this piece right here so that that spring doesn't just come flying out. And then I will slowly back that off, and then we're going to give the buffer tube just about a 90-degree turn to one side, and we're going to pull that little spring out. And I'm going to take you around. I'm going to show you where that spring comes out of. So right here is where that little spring comes out of. Alright, so just be aware of where that little spring is. Alright, now we're going to, again, lefty loosey, righty tighty, so we're going to turn this to the left. And eventually it is going to back away from this pin right here that holds the buffer in. And that little pin has a spring behind it as well. So there's the little pin and the spring is right there. You don't need to remove it if you want. You can leave it in there. Just realize that if you're not holding it, sometimes it likes to pop all the way out. So just be aware of that. And then we're just going to back the buffer tube all the way out. Just like that. And you can see, like I said, mine is already set up for an ambidextrous sling mount. So then you're going to take your buffer tube that you're going to put on, and it has a notch right here in the threads. That is for the little notch on this. Now this side, every one of these has this little piece in the middle here, this little oval, is pressed out on one side and it's indented on one side. So you want to make sure that the pressed out side is facing in this direction. Like that the indented side is facing to the rear. It's because it locks into the back of the lower receiver. Then we're going to simply put it back on and turn to the right and begin to tighten it down. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to turn this in until it locks this pin down in place and get like a thread, 1 or 2 threads on it. As soon as you can feel it, tighten it down. We're going to stop right there, and we're going to go about 90 degrees farther, and we're going to put that little spring back in place. Just like that. Alright, and I'm up as far as I need to go with my buffer tube. I don't want to bring this up any farther, so it's up as far as it needs to go. So I am going to turn it back. I'm going to make sure that that spring stays even, because I don't want the spring to get bent or crushed. I'm going to hold the spring mount in place as I hand tighten the castle nut down. If it moves and you lose it, start over like I just did. I want to back that back off. And I want to start over because it's that little spring that popped free. And like I said, I don't want the spring to get crushed or bent. So hold it in place. And then hand tighten that down. Once you get it hand tightened down, snug, then you can let go. Everything's fine. Make sure the pin does move freely still. Check it, make sure it is locked in place, being retained. Everything looks good. So now we're going to tighten it back down. We're just going to put the tool on there. Get her tightened down. And we replace the buttstock. And the last thing to do, we're going to put the spring and buffer back in. And that's it. We are done. Takes just that long to do. Very simple, very easy to do. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and as always, there's no such thing as a rusty old gun.